Assalamualaikum. My courtesy to Lieutenant Colonel Greg Soliba, your campus director, to Dr. Romeo Magsalos, the director of the National Police College, Davao. Then, of course, to Police Lieutenant General Ricardo De Leon, PhD, the President of the Philippine Public Safety College. And to all of you, my dear moms and sirs, good afternoon, mayong hapon, Davao. So I am your facilitator today. I am Brother Joe L.Alferez of the Order of the Discalced Carmelites Secular. Then I am presently connected in the Cotabato State University as program head of the graduate school, in particularly the program head of Master as well as in Doctor of Peace and Development. So this afternoon, I'll be sharing with you the presentation regarding environment or environmental peace, environmental care, or environmental protection. So just this morning, you heard a lot about peace, and you know very well one of the issues of peace or the framework of peace is the so-called environmental care. So this will be my topic this afternoon to share with you about these issues. So we move on. So the environment. So why should I or should you care about this issue about the environment? So we have the so-called environmental care. Works towards the environmental protection and the sustainability by striving to increase awareness of the efficient use of the natural resources by supporting the tree plantations, water conservations, the use of recycled products, alternate energy resources, and the eco-friendly products. So that's all about the environmental care. Then what about this environmental protection? This is a practice of protecting the natural environment on individual, organizational, or governmental levels for the benefit of both natural environment and the humans. So therefore, this is part maybe of your duty and my duty, especially you as our police officers, to protect especially our environment, in which, sabi nga kaninang umaga, this is one of the issues of peace, yung environmental care. We know very well that nowadays, because of the scientific and technological development, it is said that this contributed a lot to a severe environmental degradation and the spread of pollution, which poses threats to the humans as well as the natural habitats. Then the question, can we control this one? Sabi nga, it is uncontrolled economic. Another issue is uncontrolled economic as well as the socio-cultural activities and the unsustainable exploitation and usage of the natural resources. So that's not the problem. That's why we are called to be responsible in protecting thus our environment. I hope that we agree that everyone wants to live in a safe world where we can breathe fresh air every day, then consume clean water, then of course enjoy the view of the blue sky. I think all of us will agree with that. Kaya nga, every time you go somewhere, you experience the so-called environment, doon mo maramdaman itong lahat. Because God has given us the world, which is beautiful, unique, and amazing. You look at the picture there. God has given us the world, which is beautiful, unique, and amazing. What makes the world beautiful? If you look at the sky, of course, that's God's wonder, that's God's creation. If you look at the sea, I think all of us will appreciate. Then, of course, the various of the plants and flowers. I think some of you visited dito, meron kayong Garden of Eden. In South Cotabato, may mga flowers din doon. And that makes our environment beautiful. Then what makes our world unique? You look at the pictures. Because of various mammals, the birds, and insects. And I think here, especially the birds, our national bird, the eagle, the Philippine eagle, pinipreserve ninyo yan. And we appreciate that one, that our world is unique because of these creatures. Then, what makes our world amazing? The blue ocean, the waterfalls, na marami tayo dyan, dito sa atin sa Pilipinas, the high mountains, dami-dami. And I don't know if you visited sa aming lugar dito, we have the tent city. I think some of you visited that one. And the other mountainous places in which all, when you visited that place, really appreciate. And it's really amazing. Then, can we do many things or to prevent? We can do many things to prevent the damage of this environment. Yes, we have a lot. We can contribute, we can protect. That's why that's our topic now. Because if we'll not protect this environment, the problem is the next generation. It's the next generation. Then we don't need to go overseas just to appreciate the beauty of other nations. But only here. Kaya nga, if you go to other places, like some of you as officers, you tour around the world, you appreciate the beauty. But there's no need to go there. But here in the Philippines, we have all of these God's creations. Because in our country, we often don't realize that there are many local wisdoms that can teach us how to keep our environment safe. Yes, we have. And many more local wisdoms that can teach how. Then, are we inspired by them? Or, what can we do? Then, we can start with small things. Kahit na maliit lang yun. Then, that small things, lalaki yun. So, which means, it would start from within us as one of the steward of God's creation. Then we have the term ecology. This is a sort of review of your science before. See, ecology comes from the Greek word eikos, which means a place to live. Then, this is a science that deals with the study of the interrelationship between biotic and the abiotic. Biotic, the living, as well as the abiotic, the non-living things. Then we have the so-called also environmental science. The application of the knowledge of ecology to management of the environment. So this is just a sort of review so that we'll know the scenario or the bigger picture about the environment. What about this? The ecosystem. Ecosystem is the basic functioning units of nature consisting of the living as well as the non-living in our environment. Then ecosystems vary a kind. It can be a small or large, terrestrial or marine, man-made or natural. In our country, in the Philippines, we have a lot of the so-called ecosystem. Agricultural, the coral reef, the freshwater, the forest, the mangrove, the seagrass, marginal, then the soft bottom, then the urban ecosystem. So, isa-isahin natin ito. What about this agricultural ecosystem? This is the backbone of our country. Of course, agriculture, where saan tayo kumukuha ng ating mga kinakain. Then, there are two kinds of this ecosystem, the agriculture. We have the rain-fed as well as the irrigated. And we know this one very well. The rain-fed, depende sa ulan. But nowadays, later we'll be discussing there's a problem of this ulan. Hindi na rin alam ng kalikasan kung kailan uulan. Then, irrigated, of course. The use of water, the source of our irrigation. So, that's more on agricultural system. And you know very well na may problema din yon in our agricultural system. Then, the next is the coral reef ecosystem. Serves as the habitat and breeding places for fishes. But, what is happening today with this coral reef? Nasisira, sinisira. Diba, we have an issue now sa China. Marami silang sasakyang pangdagat. Nasisira yung mga coral reef kasi yung iba doon, I don't know, sinadya ba? Tuhataba Reef ba yun? Alala nyo yung dinaanan din ng American vessels din? Yung sasakyang pandagat. Nasirang-sira yun. Hundreds of hectares na nasisira yung ating coral reef ecosystem. Pag mawala na yon, wala nang tirahan mga isda. So therefore, wala na din tayong isda na makukuha sa dagat. Okay, that's the problem now. Another thing, yan, I think, familiar with that, the agricultural ecosystem. We have the freshwater ecosystem, include all inland bodies of water such as the streams, rivers, the standing waters such as lakes, reservoir, ponds, and other man-made impoundments. I think some were assigned dito sa aming lugar, especially in South Cotabato. We have the well-known lake dito, yung sa Tibuli, sa Lake Cebu. So may magandang lake din doon. Then, and the other lakes na nakikita natin. That's part of the freshwater ecosystem. And of course, the rivers. Sa amin nga, sabi nga, the Cotabato parang water basin ang aming lugar. Kung rivers pag-usapan, ang dami-dami namin dito sa Cotabato. Dito rin sa Davao, marami din. But since our place is a water basin, there are a lot of rivers. Cagayan, Bukidnon, lahat na tubig dito pupunta. Catch basin kasi yung sa amin, Cotabato. So therefore, the rivers, nandyan ang dami. But the problem now, anong nangyari sa river? Ang dumi. Okay? Then, kunting ulan, baha agad. So that's all about the problem of this, the freshwater ecosystem. The next is the forest. One of the diverse ecosystems teeming with hundreds of plants and animals. But the problem of this, ang laki na. May makikita pa ba tayo? Meron pa, pero iilan na lang yung na-preserve. So therefore, nagka-problema ditong the forest ecosystem. Then the marginal ecosystem. People induce ecosystems occurring in the periphery of other ecosystems. Then these are converted ecosystems of forest, croplands, than the coastal areas. So, ito yung mga marginalized naman na ecosystem na ngayon titingnan natin talagang sirang-sira na. Especially yung mga coastal areas natin. Grabing dumi. Okay? Yan, that's an example of marginalized. Sira na rin. Then the mangrove, located at the brackish waters, the salty and the muddy portion of the coastline where fresh water from rivers and saline water from the sea meet. Kaya nga, tinatawag itong bukana. Yun na ang dami-daming mangroves. Dito nga sa amin, we have also the bukana. in your place may mga bukana where the fresh water and the salt water nagmi-meet, dapat maraming mangroves. So I went to Basilan last month. Kita ko rin na preserve yung mangroves nila. And I think some of you were assigned there. Maganda pa tingnan. Kasi doon din yun naninirahan yung mga isda natin. Doon yan sila nangingitlog. Pero iilan na lang. Okay? Then we have the seagrass ecosystem called the meadows of the sea, the source of food for plant-eating animals such as the sea cows and the dog or the dugong. Pero minsan problema din. Alam natin yan. Itong the seagrass ecosystem. Sira na nga. So therefore, our environment nowadays is also suffering. If we are suffering as a human being, our environment and all our ecosystems are also suffering. So anong magagawa natin dito? That's why this your webinar, this seminar, ito yung dapat na we have to restudy, to be refreshed what we have learned before. At sana, we have to practice this one. Yeah, this is an example. The mangrove, the seagrass. Then we have also the soft bottom ecosystem. Found in the open seas beyond light penetration from depth to 50 meters up to more than 1,000 meters in the depth. So, nandoon siya sa kalagitnaan siya. That's the soft bottom ecosystem. Yan. You look at the picture, the soft bottom ecosystem. Nandoon pa rin mga isa na nirahan. Okay? As well as yung nasa ilalim. Not only the isda and other creatures there. Pero we know na there's a problem now. Then, of course, the urban. The Center for Human Settlement with corresponding support services. It consists of, especially in our country, we have 66 cities and 160 municipalities all over the country, especially in the Philippines. Pero pag makita natin yung kagandahan, that if we internalize, di ba, mga kahoy sana yan noon, pero because of this urban ecosystem, but I'm still happy na yung iba na preserve. I think you still remember doon sa Baguio City, some of you are coming from that place. Di ba, yung patayo ng SM doon, then may mga pine tree. Anong ginagawa? Nagiging issue yon. Pero yung iba na preserve, yung iba linilipat nila. Ano ay? Because of this urbanization, minsan kita natin, although kita ang kagandahan, but because of this human settlement, na dumadami na yung tao din, then of course, tinitirahan nila, maganda nga. Pero the question, what about, or what will be na mangyari sa ating environment? So, we know that we have a lot of problems in our environment. Then when we talk about peace, sabi nga, this is one of the issues, malaking problema. Very unpeaceful now, especially on the part of our environment. Kawawa our environment nowadays. Kaya nga, maawa tayo sa sarili natin. Maawa din tayo sa ating environment. That's why this seminar will always remind us na please do something as our leader, as police officers. Kasi on our end, as peace advocate, we're also doing something through seminars. Not only this, your webinar, pero everywhere we go, we'll be invited para matulungan natin ating environment. Because we know the problem. Just look at the picture, yung the images there. Sa dami-daming tao, dahil dyan, sinisira, kaingin, illegal logging, and not only the illegal logging, how much more the legal logging. So that's the problem. Pag-uuling, may problema. Then there are common environmental problems like pollution, which is classified into 4, and we know it very well. Air, the water, the land and soil, as well as the noise, pollution. So we know what is the air pollution. The physical and chemical alteration of properties of the air, which is harmful to human health, vegetation, and animals. Okay? The pollutants, the toxic pollutants, alam natin ito, the oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, the carbon monoxide. Alam ninyo yan. Then, the causes is, bakit may air pollution? because of this, the burning of fossil fuels like gasoline, the diesel, as well as petroleum. Kaya nga, in the Middle East, di ba, nagmimina sila ng mga langis, pinoproseso nila, ang usok saan pumunta? Sa kalikasan. So therefore, may problema, sirang-sira ang kalikasan. So that's air pollution. Then the pollutants harmful to the environment. The acid rain, we know what is the acid rain. The greenhouse gases, the effects of air pollution. Yan. I think that's in China. Isa sa mga naninira sa environment ang China. And why? Because of the overpopulation, because they have a lot of industries, companies. Tingnan nyo. Kaya there are times sa buong syudad nila, halos hindi na makikita dahil sa air pollution. Ayan. Lot of industries. Then what about this water pollution? The causes are the sewage, the garbage, the chemical dump by the industries, the oil spill by the transport ships. There are a lot of issues on this, causes of water pollution. Yan. Especially ito. Gabundok ng basura, the sewage, chemicals from the industries. Doon pinapalusot yung kanilang dumi. Then the oil spill. Okay, mga sasakyang pandagat. Then, what are the effects? Kills life that inhabits the water. Then, pollution disrupt the natural food chain. So, we know the food chain. Okay, when we were still the second year high school, we have the biology. Ikot-ikot yan. Okay, ikot-ikot yan. Pero pag mawala na yung ecosystem, malaking problema. Then humans, we are also affected. Then ecosystem, of course, can be severely changed or destroyed by water pollution. You look at this one. Di ba? Kita ninyo yan? What about that? Fish kills everywhere in our country. And not only in our country, in other countries. Yan. Kakalungkot na mga katotohanan about our environment. Then, we have the solid waste and land pollution or the soil pollution. And there are two sources of this. The solid waste from mining operations, then byproducts of the agriculture includes mga tayo ng mga hayop and the waste from the slaughtered animals. So, that's all about this. That's why I think we have the law now. Yung the proper waste management, the proper disposal. Pero until today, kulang pa rin ang political will ng ating mga leaders. Ang dami pa rin yung improper disposal of the waste. Okay? Then the causes of the solid waste pollution, of course, alam natin yun, the overpopulation, dami-dami ng tao. And that's why there are a lot of mga proposals, especially in the Philippines, China, the two-child policy, and the other countries, para mapigilan ang pagdami ng tao. Kasi ang tao din ang nagdadala ng problema sa ating mundo, sa ating kalikasan. Okay? Pero ang tao din makabigay ng dapat paraan. Okay? Kaya nga, not more on overpopulation, but kung paano gumawa ng paraan ang tao as steward of God's creation. If all are responsible of this, and I think mabawas-bawasan man, kahit na dumadami tayo, if all are responsible. Okay. Then the medical waste or infectious waste, that's also the problem of the solid waste and land pollution. Household waste, yun yung isa. Sabi ko nga, we were trained in every barangay, we had a seminar, the proper waste disposal, to segregate. Pero, it's sad to note that, especially here in our place, We have the biodegradable, non-biodegradable, nasa segregate yan. Pero pagkuha naman ng mga basura, isa lang, itapon din sa isang lugar. So what happened? Sabi ko, anong nangyari? So there is a problem. Okay? Then we have the 4 R's in which you know it very well. The reduce, the reuse, recycle, and of course, the repair. 3 R's lang yan, but in peace, may dinagdag. Pero hindi na lang repair, may dagdag pa, ang dami pa. But for this, 4 lang, repair. Whenever item that are reusable needs repair to make it functional, repair instead of throwing it. So, yan. Then, we have another pollution, the noise. Ang noise din pala ay pollution. Simply defined as unwanted sound. It may be soft but unpleasant. It may be good music but played loud. Lakas, tama, di ba, ang mga kabataan natin ngayon? Pag disco, pag mahina, hindi makasayaw. So therefore, ito na yung the noise pollution. Siguro tayo, I am 52 now, yung iba siguro, kasing edad ko mga 50s, mga 40s yung iba, noon we appreciate the music. Kasi na ibang henerasyon natin noon. Pero ngayon, ang bata pag hindi noise, so dagdag, nakakasira din sa ating environment. This noise pollution. Not only sa mga kabataan, as well as sa mga sasakyan. Sobra-sobrang noise. Okay, not only the sound, but also yung mga sasakyan natin. Okay, that's part of the noise pollution. Then you have also the radiation and its harmful effects that includes ultraviolet rays. Di ba? Yan, kita natin when we're still in high school, sinasabi teacher natin, the X-rays and the rays from the radioactive elements. And this radiation that penetrates the human body is harmful. Kaya nga, sa hospital, pag may magpa-X-ray, dapat, kung may mga bata, dapat malayo ka kasi may rondoong radiation na nakakasira sa ating katawan bilang tao. Now, when you talk about the so-called environmental peace or environmental protection or care, we have an issue on this. I think you are familiar with these genetically modified organisms. The GMO, are you familiar? I think very, very much familiar kayo dito. The genetically modified organisms. Kung hindi man familiar pero nabasa na niyo ito, kinakain na rin natin ito. Well, ano ito? So, as a sort of review, a genetically modified organisms is one whose genetic material has been altered using the genetic engineering. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, are commonly used in foods and medicines. Okay? And this has led to concern about the dangers that might cause to environment and to human health. So, yun yung tinitingnan natin. Nakakatulong kaya itong GMO na palagi nating kinakain or even our medicine? Bakit issue ito sa ating environment? What do you think? Kaya nga, this is man-made chemical material through using the genetic engineering. Although, so later, we know the advantage as well as the disadvantage. Pero, may problema. Okay? Especially, i-advance ko na yung minamanipulate yung ng isang kumpanya ang gumagawa nito. So, nasisira yung ibang mga industries dahil manipulate. So, very unpeaceful to the environment also. Not only sa mga tao. Not only doon sa effect ng ating environment. But as well as yung the monopoly, especially kung sino yung nagpo-produce. So, therefore, this is part of the environmental peace na may problema. Okay. Ayan. The GMO are plants or animals created through the gene splicing, the techniques, and biotechnology. This is also called the genetic engineering or the GE. The genetic engineering, this experimental technology merges DNA from the different species, creating unstable combinations or plants and animals, bacterial and the viral genes that cannot occur in nature or in a traditional crossbreeding. So yan, combination, kuha ka dito, kinukombine. Ina-eksperimentuhan, kung maganda ng kalalabasan, pwede daw gamitin natin. As well as yung kinakain natin, consciously and unconsciously, GMOs karamihan na kinakain natin ngayon. Kasi wala na, pipili mo na lang yung natural. Okay? Yung organic, mapipili na lang natin yon. Kaya nga, tayo nang mag-weigh. Okay? But alam natin, there is a problem when we talk about environmental peace. Yan. Are GMOs safe? Most developed nations do not consider GMOs to be safe. Take note, most of the nations do not consider GMO to be safe. In more than 60 countries around the world, including Australia, Japan, and all the countries of the European Union, there are significant restrictions or outright bans on the production and sale of GMOs. In the United States, the government has approved GMOs based on studies conducted by some corporations that created them and profit from their safe. Then, increasingly, Americans are taking matters into their own hands and choosing to opt out of the GMO experiment. So yan, may ayaw, may gusto. Tayo, pobre yung country natin, kaya nga yung iba, mini-manipulate of the companies. So therefore, sabi ko, consciously and unconsciously, apektado tayo, kinakain natin din ang resulta dito sa GMO na ito. Then, what are the impacts on the environment? Take note on the impacts of the environment. Over 80% of the GMOs grown worldwide are engineered for the herbicide tolerance. As a result, use of toxic herbicides like Roundups has increased 15 times since GMO were introduced. GMO crops are also responsible for the emergence of the super weeds and super bugs, which can also only be killed with ever more toxic poison like 2,4-D. Alam natin to kung farmer ka, parents of farmer. Then a major ingredient in an Agent Orange. Then GMOs are direct extension of chemical agriculture and are developed and sold by the world's biggest chemical companies. A long-term impacts of GMOs are unknown. And once released into the environment, these novel organisms cannot be recalled. So that's the problem. That's the problem now. Is it safe? And what's the impact on the environment? Not only to the environment, but sa ating health. So, yun ang problema. Kaya nga, environmental peace, maglingo-lingo ka lang. Anway, malaking problema. But, panawagan nga sa webinar na ito, be responsible. We are the stewards. Pero pag yung iba nga, dinidiscuss sa ibang country, pero sa atin, parang hindi pa rin masyado natin ito naririnig, pero kinakain na natin. Tama ba? Okay. So we move on. There are two most common types of the GMOs, the food, yung kinakain natin, the soya beans, the golden rice, the corn, the canola. Okay? Then also to the medicines, the insulin, the hormones, and the vaccine. Yung vaccine nga natin, saan yan galing? Okay? Kita ninyo? Yung anti-vaccine natin, the Sinovac, at saka etc. etc. Okay? Then the food GMOs. Crops are modified so that farmer kill weeds with herbicides. The crops can stand the exposure to the herbicides, killing the weeds and not the crop. Familiar with the corn? I have tried this once in my farm. Hanggang ngayon may farmman ako. May mais na, spray ka para ang patayin lang yung mga damo. Ang mais hindi mamamatay. So, yun. Pero ang renong resulta dyan, unconsciously baka ang kinakain natin parang killing us softly. Then sa medicine naman, generally modified medicines can be produced cheaper and easier. Then some GMOs are itong insulin, the thyroid hormones, and the hepatitis B vaccine. Insulin being the oldest. So yan, resulta din sa GMO yung mga medicines na yon. So there are other types of GMOs like plants, the microbes, the mammals, the insects, the aquatic life. So we will tackle more the history. The first GMO was created in 1973. After years of testing the research, GMOs were introduced to farmers. Of course, the farmers unang-una. Then in the 90s, genetically modified food became available in the store. Di ba? 90s. Ibig sabihin, unconsciously, bumibili tayo. Minsan hindi natin nalalaman. Ngayon, kung ngayon natin nalalaman, hinay-hinay din tayo. Baka resulta ito GMO yung mga iniinom, kinakain natin. Then in 1978, the Genentech becomes the first of the synthetic insulin. Later, they created the human growth hormones, which was used to enable dwarf children to grow to the normal size. The Genentech's Humulin is the first consumer product developed through the modern bioengineering. So, grabe no? Dwarf ka, inchikan ka, magiging normal ka. So, kita ninyo, parang hindi dumadaan sa natural process. Because of the help of this experimentation, pwede kang mag-level up, especially pag dwarf ka. Then in 1982, familiar kayo lahat dito, the Monsanto, alam nyo, may mga Monsanto corn, the yellow corn, introduced bovine growth hormones used in cows to increase milk production. So, kinagamit sa cow. They were among the first to genetically modify a plant cell in 1983. In 1992, the Calgens Faber Sever, this is a tomato naman, approved for a commercial production by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and this was genetically engineered to remain firm for a longer period of time. The FDA declares that genetically engineered food are not dangerous and do not require special regulation. So, sabi nila, hindi na kailangan sa FDA ng ganito kasi hindi naman dangerous, nakakain naman. But we know very well, if it is experimentation, it's not natural. So therefore, kahit na pwedeng kainin, our sentido común would tell us na since it's not natural, may problema. Okay. The soybeans. Tingnan nyo, today, ngayon, sabi ko nga, take it or leave it, 90% of soybeans planted in the United States are genetically modified. The soybeans are used in products such as animal feed, the packaged meals, and the oil is used in many industrial applications. Then the corn, 86% of the corn planted in the United States falls under the category of the GMO. The maize is the most widely growth grain crop in Americas. It is used to make sugar substitute such as high fructose. A large quantity of processed food contain corn and is also used to make ethanol, biofuel that is mixed with gasoline to decrease the amount of pollutants emitted by motorcycles. So, grabe no? Sa corn. Okay, today. Sige, fast track natin. In the future, tomorrow, buwas damlag, ugma damlag, is still in development. Various products including the vaccines, the vitamin enrichments, hormones that result in the faster maturation and disease resistance. Only time can tell if the risk involved in using GMOs will outweigh the benefits. So, yan. Hindi natin alam. Time will tell what will be the effect on this. Okay? Fast track lang siguro natin. Alam natin itong golden rice. May advantages at saka disadvantages. Tingnan nyo ito. Yan. Advantages. It contains vitamin E, A. So children are in the developing countries won't become blind kasi may advantage. Then what about the disadvantage? Poor countries became dependent on rice. Countries which have techniques for genetic engineering. So, yon, between the rich and the poor country, so walang balance. Manipulate dito, so kawawa ang mga poor countries. Then, what are people's concern? Is this food safe? Should food be labeled? Anong label sa food? GMO? Organic? Ganun ba? Are there adverse environmental effect? We know that one. In the first slides, there is. Okay? The patenting of seeds. Then, the discrimination against the poor. Who benefits? That's why the issue, who benefits? Of course, the rich people, the rich country, and the poor countries, the poor people, may problema. So that's why, that's part of the environmental peace. Then, all of this concern apply to food and agriculture in general. Sweet corn na kinakain natin, you look at the advantages as well as the disadvantages. The advantages, no longer use of insecticides. Why? Hindi na matablan. Then, the farmer doesn't need to deal with toxics. Tingnan yung sweet corn, kinakain natin. Ang disadvantage naman, insects can become resistant to the poison. So, pag resistant na sila, so maghanap ng higher naman. Then, endangered butterflies are in bigger threat. Ayan, wala na. Diba yung may mga butterflies dyan and the other mga insects dyan kasi may falling grain man yung ating corn. Diba? We know that one. Pag wala na, malaking problema. Pero kinakain natin ito. That's the result of GMO. The tomatoes, sabi natin kanina, may advantages, disadvantages, pero i-fast track natin ito. Yan. The genetic mode of conventional crops. Yan, may advantages, may disadvantages. Then the environmental hazards from pesticides. Substantial health impacts on workers. Then pollution of natural ecosystem and waterways. Then the loss of insect in the biodiversity in the agro-ecosystems, then the creation of secondary pest, then the creation of insects races resistant to pesticides. So, yun talagang malaking mga hazards sa ating environment because of the pesticides. Yan, agriculture is the main cause of environmental change and degradation. So, that's the problem now. Okay? Then, that's all about the GMOs, which also become a problem to when we talk about environmental peace, environmental care, or environmental protection. Now, another issue about the environment is the global warming or the so-called climate change. This is an issue all over the world, a trending issue. Okay, we move on. Before, you look at this. Our Earth, our planet, is precious, like a pearl. But look at nowadays. What is happening to our environment today? Mainit na. Okay? Tayo, with your age, our generation, noon, pag December, ramdam natin ang lamig. Ngayon, hindi mo na ramdam ang lamig. Ngayon, magsa-summer na. Di ba? Magsa-summer na. Dapat maramdaman natin ang init. Pero napansin nyo, may mga bagyo. Even the climate, hindi na maintindihan kung saan siya lalagay. Okay? Dahil sa problema ng ating kalikasan. Then what about this global warming? This is an increase in the average temperature of the atmosphere, oceans, and land masses of the Earth as a result of the enhanced greenhouse effect. And we know the greenhouse effect. Ano-ano yung nakapaloob doon ng mga elements. That I think you can review that one when we were still in college and high school. Yung greenhouse effect na yan. Then pag nasisira na yan, hindi na alam saan pupunta yon, ayan, umiinit. Then the main causes of the warming or the global warming, we mentioned this one, the burning of the fossil fuels such as the coal, the oil, the gasoline, etc. Then we have also the natural gases which occur naturally in the environment. Ito na yung the carbon dioxide, ito na yung the methanes, the nitrous oxide, the water vapor. Ito yung sinasabi natin mga greenhouse gases. Okay? Itong binanggit natin greenhouse gases na nakakasira din. Then, of course, our human activities. Tapon dito, tapon doon. People are irresponsible in taking care of the environment. Kaya nga, umiinit. There are 5 deadliest effects of the global warming. The first one, the spread of diseases. Alam natin ito. Okay? Kaya most pests, kahit saan sila mapunta because of the warming. Hindi nila alam kasi kahit saan sila pupunta. You look at this one. Di ba noon, hindi yan uso when we're still young? But nowadays, kunting ulan, yan. Mangingitlog, daming biktima. Minsan nga magka-outbreak dahil dyan sa lamok na yan. Kaya nga the spread of the diseases, kahit saan na lang. Okay, why? Because of the warming, the global warming. Next, the warmer waters and more typhoons. Alam natin yan, especially in the Philippines. Okay? As the temperature of the ocean rises, so will the probability of more frequent typhoons. Then, the increased probability and intensity of droughts and heat waves. And look at this one, pag sobrang init, the drawing. Kaya nga noon, wala man yung heat stroke. Ngayon, marami nang matay na Pinoy na heat stroke. And why? Kaya nga, we have to think, rethink, refresh, reflect. Okay, kung ano nang nangyayari, kung ano magagawa natin. Bakit may heat stroke? Dahil wala na ito, sinisira ang kalikasan. Kaya nga, sabi nga, one of the deadliest issue is the increased probability of the intensity of droughts and heat waves. Droughts yan. Pero, sa kabilang panig naman, meron din tayong La Nina. Kaya nga, sabi nga, hindi natin maintindihan. Hindi na rin maintindihan ng kalikasan kung saan siya lulugar. Sa atin, sa Pilipinas, we have the tag-init, tag-ulan. Pero ang tag-init ngayon, matag-ulan. Ang tag-ulan na matag-init. Okay? Like nga, wag sa summer na, pero sige ulan, sige ulan. Okay? Why? Sirang-sira na ang environment. The economic consequence, that's also one of the deadliest. Kung may mga calamities, what will happen? Remember Yolanda? Economic consequences. Okay? Rinansak yung mall, wala na makakain ng tao. Then kung mayroon namang tulong, saan na rin mapupunta? Until today, issue pa rin yan sa Yolanda. Billions yung tulong. Kinurakot lang. So that's an issue until today. Na walang solusyon. Okay? Nawawala ang pera. So that's an example of economic consequence. Then of course, ito yung isa sa mga cause effect of the global warming is the polar ice caps melting. Alam na natin ito. Halos everyday in the news, alam natin na hinay-hinay, nagme-melt na yon. Yung naalala nyo si Jack at saka si Rose, yung the icebergs, hinay-hinay, nagme-melt yon. Pag ma-melt yun, what will be the result? Diba, may mga lugar na ngayon na nawawala na sa mapa. Okay? Then, ang kawawa din dyan, ang mga naninirahan diyang creature. Kasi wala na silang matirahan pag nami-melt yan. So, that's really the problem. A worldwide problem. Hindi man tayo apektado sa Pilipinas dahil doon lang man. Anong hindi apektado pag ma-melt doon, di ba? Lahat apektado yan. We are living in a globe. Okay? Akala natin hindi tayo apektado tayo. Economic consequence, apektado lahat. Sakit, apektado tayo. How much more pag na-melt na yung mga ice na yon. So, you look at the evidences. Take note of the evidences of this global warming. Ayan. 1985, mayroon pa. 2002, may ice pa. 1985 yan. 2002 yan. Ngayon, 2021 na. So, ano mangyayari? Malaking problema. No more snow. Last month, I think, maririnig natin sa United States. May mga kaibigan ako doon. Grabing snow namin dito. Ganito, ganyan, ganito, ganyan. Pero, sooner or later, hindi na nila mararamdaman yan. Because of the problem of our environment. This one. Problema. Ayan. The impact of global warming. Yan. Then what about this global change? What's the difference between global change at climate change as well as the global warming? Anyway, they are interrelated. They are interrelated. It refers to the global changes in temperature, wind patterns, and rainfall patterns. So, interrelated, sabi natin sa meaning din kanina sa global warming. The changes due to being driven by the gradual warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the human activities. So, therefore, tayong mga tao talaga ang isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit ang ating environment nasisira. Dahil sa atin, I am contributor. Bakit nasisira environment? You are also contributor. I'll cite you a specific example. Surely, yung iba sa inyo, wow, marang tambutso mga baba. Kita nyo? Tapon doon, tapon dito. Lahat tayo kumakain ng candy. Yung ginawa, wrapper, tapon dito, tapon doon. All of us are contributors. Sir, hindi talaga ko sali kasi official ako. We are all contributor. Walang excuse dito. Bakit nasisira, umiinit ang ating mundo? Dahil yan sa atin. Take note on that. Kaya nga now, with this webinar, with this seminar, okay, we are reminded once again to be responsible, to take care of our environment. Sana malinaw ito. Okay? I am responsible, you are responsible. Kaya nga, sama-sama tayo, tulungan natin ang ating kalikasan kasi sirang-sira na. Init na, mainit na. Okay? Then, where will it happen? It is already affecting the entire world. Its land, water, and air, not only in our environment affected, but also to the health, to the jobs, economies, and the ways of life of people living in our planet. Lahat apektado nga. We are all contributors na sisira. Therefore, we are all affected. But we can do something. We can do something. Kahit na isang ano lang. Like a seed. Isang seed lang. Okay? Like a mustard seed, itanim mo yan. Kung mabuhay yan, lalago yan. Then, Kaya nga, we can make a difference. It will start within us. Kaya nga, yun yung panawagan. Be responsible of taking care. I-repair natin uli yung nawawala para magamit muli to the next generation. So we move on. You look at the impacts of this climate change. Yan. Yan. The vulnerability of the temperature, the extreme weather events, the calamities and the disasters. You look at this. Ito yung resulta, the impacts. Ayan. Then, yan. Another impacts, crop production. The decline in the crop production. Kasi wala naman, init naman. Then, unproductive lands. Tigang na ang lupa, wala nang mabubuhay dahil sa init. Lessen yung production, wala na, namamatay na, wala nang mabubuhay. So, that's an impact. Then, the pest as well as mga diseases, yan. Sinisira ng mga tanim. Kahit na GMO pa yan. Okay? Hindi matablan. Pero sabi nga, sooner or later, kung nagiging manhid man yung mga insekto dyan, talagang magka-problema din. Then, soil erosion, alam natin yan. Wala naman mga tanim, so nag-erode. Wala na mga kahoy. Then, the water supply. We know that one very well. Kaya yung dam sa Maynila, pag summer, pag walang bagyo, natatakot ang mga tao, wala ng tubig. Okay? Then, the water quality. Masisira ng water quality. Wala natin maiinom na clean water. Then, the hydropower. Kaya nga, mawala na ng tubig sa level. Kung natutunaw, taas yung iba, nawawala yung ibang lugar. Then, the livestock production, magka-problema. I think one time in Bukidnon, hindi naman green. Wala na makakain ang mga baka. Ginagawa, linalagyan ng salamin na green para yung makita nila yung mga grass green at saka kinakain. Di ba? Problema yon. Then, the grasslands, yan, nasusunog. Malaking problema. Then, another impact on the health, especially to our children. Kasi sila yung madaling mataptan o sakit. Then, the projected changes in precipitation, alam natin to in high school, part of the review, more frequent, intense rainfall events, longer dry periods in between. Drier in most coastland areas, then wetter or drier in the upland areas. Kaya nga yan, drier, sige naman ulan, so malaking problema. Then, observe the changes and projections. So, fast track natin ito, related yan kanina. Yan, ito. Mga evidences of the strong winds. Saan ito nangyayari? Sa Pagangan, Valencia City. Yan ang resulta. Yung may bagyo. Kaya sabi natin, this climate change, hindi nga naiintindihan ng kalikasan kung babagyo ba, o ulan ba, o iinit ba. Kaya ito yung resulta. Okay, that was in 2010. Another example, the coral bleaching, nasisira yung coral natin. Yung coral reef ecosystem, sabi ni kanina. Yan. So, what does this all mean in our country? Itong global warming na ito. Ayan. In the Philippines, we are visited by the average of 20 typhoons every year. Pero ngayon, I think more than 20 na. Kahit na tag-init, may typhoon. So that's an example of this global warming. Hindi na alam kung kailan papasok na sumubra na rin itong typhoon na ito. Then another impact, the landslide, the mud flows. Then, yan. So ito yung mga impacts and evidences. Remember Ondoy, the Marikina flooding, kasi mababa sila doon, ang bilis. Tumaas yung tubig. Then, yan. In 2017, that's still in Marikina, 2009. Ayan. Typhoon Ondoy din siya. Alam na alam niyo ito? Yan, sa Ondoy. Daming nasisira, nawawasak, the properties, and of course, our environment, sirang-sira. Typhoon Piping naman. Ito yung resulta. Ayan. That's still in 2009. Yan. Yan. The Hulu-Sulu flooding, that was last 2011, February 5. Yung mga na-assign doon. Look at these logs. Saan galing ito? Pinuputol ng mga tao. Bumaha, punta sa syudad. Problema. Pag hindi sana ito pinutol, baka naprotektahan pa sila. Pero sabi nga, ang mga tao naging irresponsable. Ayan. Another flooding sa Chiding. Ayan. In our alma mater with Dr. L.Alferez, the Notre Dame University, during those times, 2011, we're still there. Ilang weeks kami walang klase dahil sa flooding na yan. Ayan. Evidences and impacts. Familiar with Yolanda? Yan. Ayan. I think itong barko na ito parang ginawa nilang tourism, parang remembrance. Galing sa dalampasigan, napunta sa taas. Ngayon, remembrance na lang, parang the remnants of Yolanda, ginawa nilang tourist attraction. But despite of all the calamities, you look at our traits as Filipino, nandoon pa rin resiliency as well as our faith in our Creator, faith in God. Kahit binaha, tawa pa rin. Dadasal pa rin. Ganon tayo ka-resilient as well as yung ating paniniwala. Pasalamat tayo na ganyan tayo. Okay? Na mayroon tayong ganyan. Despite of all the natural as well, even the man-made calamities. Yan, the climate change, sabi nga natin, we have the La Nina at saka in El Nino. The threaten food security, primarily agricultural and fishing economy. Ayan. Look at this one. Another proof of global warming. In 18th century, yan pang suot. 2006 yan na lang. Ngayon, 2021 na. Ano ngayon? That can be a joke, but that's the result. A simple evidence or proof of the so-called global warming. Another simple proof of global warming. Ayan. In 18th century, balot na balot. Ngayon, 90s. Ngayon to 2021 na tayo. I think, naintindihan nyo ito. Kaya nga may problema. May problema. Then most vulnerable are the marginal lands characterized by poor soil conditions. Then the poor and the landless, that's also vulnerable. Then those who live in flood-prone or drought-prone areas. Then those with a limited access to resources, technologies, and infrastructures. Then those completely dependent on agriculture, especially the farmers. So yun talagang malaking problema sa kanila. And those who practice the monoculture. Ano itong monoculture? Alam mo, mais lang lahat. Kaya nga yung iba, maro na, tanim tayo ng mais, tanim tayo ng palay, tanim tayo ng root crops, kamote, kamuteng kahoy, in case may masisira dyan, at least, meron ka pang makakain. Okay? Then there's a need to adapt with these problems through the designs, especially the urban spaces of buildings, through behaviors and the use of the outdoor environment, transport policies, the air conditioning. So may mga adoption na. Then according to the climate change, can be spontaneous or planned out. Kaya nga, there's a need to plan in order to minimize the cost and the negative impacts. Higher temperature, longer term water availability, and the short term food, floods, and extreme winds, and etc. Then in the adoption range, technological changes in agriculture, management practice para maiwasan din. Kailangan yung adoption. The institution, maybe your institution, kaya nga kayo, meron man kayong tree planting noon. Kayo, mga officials, alam niyo yan. Every police, dapat ito yon. Pero anong ginawa? Picture lang for documentation. Saan yung tinanim nyo ngayon? Kayo mga leader. May nabuhay ba? Because our mind, we were trained tree planting, but walang tree growing. Of course, tumubo yan. After how many months tumubo, may mga hayop dyan, hindi binantayan. Yung iba nga sa mga tabi-tabing kasi pulis sundalo ha, pinatanim kayo. Pak, may pa. Hindi naman binalikan. Then what happened? May tumubo ba? Question mark. Kaya nga, may problema. Sinong problema? We, the stewards of God's creation. Hanggang documentation lang. Hanggang report lang. Okay? I think alam ninyo yan. Alam ninyo yan. Okay. Then, global response to climate change, pwede natin gawin din, provide flexibility and in the developed countries in meeting their emission and reduction. Sa atin, may problema ito. And the rest. Yan. Then, campaigns against violators of environmental standards, especially itong smoke belchers. Kaya nga, in Cotabato City, dito sa aming lugar, wala na kaming emission testing dito. Kasi puro mga tao dito. Kaya nga, ang emission testing, magpa-renew kami, sasakyan doon na sa Midsayap. Bakit? Kasi may problema. Tao, irresponsible. Kahit na grabe yung kanyang sasakyan, makapasa. Yung problema. Then we have the public drivers assisted in acquiring the new and cleaner engines and vehicles. Dapat ganon. But the problem, makalusot man. Okay. Then, proper waste disposal management. We have the 3 R's. Kaya nga kanina, we mentioned the 4 R's. Then, now, in order to save the planets, anong magagawa natin? Yan. Conserve the use of electricity and water. Very basic. Pero, we'll be reminded once again. Put out lights that are not in use or close the television when nobody is watching. So, sa inyong mga offices, may mga TV kayo. Anong nangyari? Kayo nakakaalam. Yan, sa mga pamamahay natin, change the light bulb. Di ba, meron tayo ngayon na pinapalit na fluorescent light. Yan. Then, use efficient lighting and efficient use of electrical equipment. Then, on the road, we are encouraged sana to use the so-called, the bicycles. Pero tayo ngayon, di ba, dasok-dasok, ayaw dito, puro sasakyan. Dahil nga, let's drive and drive smart. Ito exercise pa. Then, ways to help our environment from further degradation and exploitation. First, respect other creatures. Take note. Ito yung maitutulong natin at magagawa natin. Respect other creatures. Human beings, we should also respect other creatures because like us, they have also their dignity. Humans do not have full ownership of the things around them. Humans are simply caretaker or stewards of His environment. God created things around him, most especially the world in which He dwells, not for him to abuse, manipulate, or exploit, but to use in a responsible way. Man or woman, in this sense, who is empowered by reason, should not dominate other species, but care for them in God's behalf, because God entrusted us to be His steward. So therefore, we are called to be responsible of the other creatures, especially the animals, to respect those creatures. Then plant trees. Na ginawa niyo itong project noon, pero walang mga trees ngayon. Because the importance of trees, ito, provide food, not only us, but to the other creatures. Prevent flood. Provide oxygen. Alam natin yan. The sanctuary of life and other animals. Then conserve water and energy, as what had been mentioned in the previous slide. We should conserve water and energy because they are consumable and perishable. Then use recycled materials. Recycling materials help us save energy. Factories save lots of money and energy by using recycled bottles than making new ones. Then proper waste disposal. We mentioned this one already. Then, one of the project now, may mga project in every institution, the Clay Go. I don't know, may Clay Go man din kayo dito. The Clean as you go. So let us promote this practice of cleaning our own environment, our canals and our communities, clean and free drainages with clogs, and dispose the garbage responsibly. Climate hazards cannot be prevented, but its effect can be mitigated through proper climate adaptation and innovation. So let us not worry of the cost of the climate change adaptation programs, but let us be concerned with protecting and uplifting the lives of our people. We can then be sure that we can bequeath our children our earth is much better shape than we inherited it. Then let it be known that this is our only earth. It is our future and our children's future, if not our children, to our kaapu-apuhan's future. So, it is therefore our choice, my dear moms and sirs. Last but not the least, encouraging others. As Gandhi wisely said, you must be the change you wish to see the world. That's certainly true when it comes to saving the environment. And each of us has an individual responsibility to make the changes and decisions that will benefit the natural world around us. And with that, I'd like to say, thank you very much. God bless you all. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Once again, you and I should be responsible. We are God's steward. We have to be responsible to protect and help in repairing, especially of what is happening today to our environment. So once again, thank you and God bless you. Mabuhay tayong lahat.